You're listening to Well Met,
a
Hearthstone podcast brought to you by BlizzPro.com.
Well met.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 89, is that right? Episode 89 of Well Met. We are a Hearthstone podcast brought to you by BlizzPro.com. Today is December 11th, 2016. From Denver, Colorado, I'm John Horstman. With me, of course, is the crew. First, from Saskatoon, Canada, it's Kevin Avdestead. Hey, Kev.
Hey John, yeah, it's been a pretty awesome week, all things considered, and I've been looking forward to hanging out with you two pretty much all weekend. Lots of cool Hearthstone stuff to talk about. So it's been crazy. You know, we were talking a couple days ago about how it didn't seem like there'd be a lot going on, but there's actually a surprising amount happening, despite the fact that we're kind of into the like off-season holiday time of year, eh? So
yeah, it's gonna be a good show. Let's jump on over to Kansas City. Why couldn't I get that right? Kansas City, JR Cook. Hey, JR.
Hey, John. I'm excited for this week. There's several good things to talk about. I get to talk about the meta and really dig into that because it's sort of in an interesting place, to say the least, right now. It's going to even get more interesting, I think, as the weeks go on. But I'm excited for a good show, guys.
It's going to be a good one. We should probably talk about our weeks in Hearthstone and gaming, as we always do every week. So let's start with that. JR, you've had a pretty big week.
Oh, man. I've played a lot of Hearthstone this week. Been trying to get better with Reno Lock. I learned I am pretty terrible with that deck right now. But I need to get better at it because I need to fully understand more about how that deck works, because you're going to see it a lot on the ladder, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So I've been playing that, being sort of unsuccessful, sort of successful, depending on how it goes. The mirror match is really tough with that. But this weekend, I did my charity, Extra Life charity event. Did like 26 hours of live streaming gameplay. And we ended up raising $600 for the Children's Miracle Network.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
Super cool, dude. Well done.
Woo! Way to be JR. Sorry, really long applause. We're never fixing it. By the way.
It's a thing now.
It's just one of the things.
So I'm pretty thrilled about that. We didn't hit my goal of 1,000, but I put that up there as, a level that maybe we might hit, but probably won't. But you got to have goals. $600 is pretty amazing anyway. So I'm happy that of all you guys that came and hung out, chatted with us and just donated money.
Is it still too late, or can people still hop on your page and donate?
People can still donate through the end of the year. In fact, I am thinking about doing kind of a charity stream after Christmas, like the week before, maybe do like 1 or 2 days, because I have like that entire week off of work. So I might as well do something productive with my time.
Sure.
So there is definitely time to still hit that $1,000 mark, but
all right. Well, Metters,
so be on the lookout for that.
Where can they go? Where can they go to do that?
You can go over to extralife.blizzpro.com, or you can go to you can go to our Twitch channel here, twitch.tv/BlizzPro, and there's a donate button. If you scroll down a little bit, it says donate Extra Life Charity. You can click on that, and
awesome.
That's also an easy way to do it.
So, all right, well, Metters, I think we can do this here. We've been doing almost 90 shows, and we get it. Not everyone can, support Patreon or support any other types of ways possible. But if you can, this holiday season, I would say that there is no bolder cause than charity. And so if you head on over to extralife.blizzpro.com, we can get JR to his $1,000 goal. We'll say Well Met did it. The Well Met listeners are the most charitable and amazing and cool, fun-loving podcast listeners in all of Hearthstone podcast. So, yeah.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and talk about Kevin's day while I go ahead and fix your guys' nameplates up.
Sounds awesome. Yeah, I actually have played a surprising amount of Hearthstone this week. I was crazy busy because last weekend, as you guys know, I was away. I flew back from Vancouver from our event out at the Elements Casino out there just in time to do the show, and then had a nutty week, tons of work stuff going on. But I did actually do a little community Hearthstone tournament today, being run by a friend of mine. And it's neat because we were playing a 3-man tournament where your team of 3 had to run all 9 classes. So each player had to run 3 different classes, but all 9 classes had to be represented. And then your lineup played against their team's lineup in 3 best-of-5 conquest matches. No bans, just using all of the classes in all the matchups. Actually a surprising amount of fun to sit and pilot decks together like you do on stream or whatever, but as a team in a tournament setting. And the tournament setting also just more fun because there's so many cool meta reads that you can pull off. We got to see the class lineups in advance, so we knew, for example, we had a player that ran Mage, Shaman, and Hunter, and his opponent was running a lineup that looked really control heavy. So we went for these really, really good mid-range decks and managed to get a 3-0 in that matchup, which was cool. But it's just so much more fun. And I honestly cannot wait until there's like better tournament support in this game because it's the most fun. It's so much more fun to play tournaments than just grind traditional ladder. I hope that, at some point we get to do a Well Met tournament still, because I know we've tossed that idea around a few times, and I think that would be a blast.
Yep. I would love to, and I've honestly looked into all of the work that it takes, and I'm like looking at my computers, I'm like, can I make it work? And you know us, we like to make sure that everything looks good and sounds good. We have a standard, believe it or not, and the standard does not include making sure that everyone's names are under the right cameras. But besides that, we have standards. Honestly, I bet you it's happened about 20 times in 90 episodes where somebody's name's been wrong. It's just one of those things. Anyways, so I've looked into it. It's a lot of work with the way it is, and there's still quite a few bugs with the spectator client even right now. I was watching Hearthstone All-Stars this week, which was going on. It was cast by Falcon Punch, I believe. No, Captain Falcon. And anyways, that a couple of those guys had huge names, like a all-star lineup. And at least once every other game, they were having to reset clients because the spectator client stopped working correctly or whatever. And I'm just like, if you could just have a separate little thing that just made sure these didn't happen, or just worked on spectator mode a little bit more, it could go a long way. It's been a little bit of a mess.
I wish that they would just overhaul how spectator mode works right now, but it seems to be low on their priority list.
I know I have a few friends who are in the production with some production companies who have done some Hearthstone stuff, and they've actually had like 3 or 4 computers set up and spectating the same game just so that they can quickly change through and
they want to like
in case it doesn't
decks from one and like discover from another, and it's bad.
Right. And then you've got that backup at the end in case something goes down, so you don't have to watch them go back to the main screen. It's a lot of fun. I know, JR, you and I are going to be doing a little Hearthstone League here at the beginning of the year as well. So, Kevin, are you going to be in that one too, or no?
I haven't signed up yet because I don't know if I'm going to have the time with everything that's going on, but I'd really like to. I know I saw the tweets about it going around, and just if I could find the time to play some more Hearthstone, that would be great. But as it stands, I mean, 2 to 3 podcasts a week, 2 raid nights, and heaven forbid I want to spend a little time on a Friday out with my friends. That's the week, right? So
Friends.
it's just tough to find the time.
I love
Kevin thinks he has friends.
I love Kev
I have
jokes.
like once a week I pretend to have a social life. It's neat.
It's
It's like a little like academic experiment.
That's my reaction
oh
to that
wow.
one.
Wow.
Oh, so
God, I
good.
forgot about that.
Oh, well, it's always there. It's been there lurking in the back, fly on the wall. Anyways, well, as for me, I did quite a bit of laddering, not a lot of streaming. It's finals week. I just don't have the energy to prepare for finals and stream all that much. And so I'm just going to relax a little bit, focus on the shows. And got up to rank 8 and then eked back to rank 9. So I've been doing all right. Haven't gotten a whole lot of playtime in. And yeah, the meta is interesting. We're going to talk about it later, but I can't wait to kind of talk about what we're seeing on the ladder. And yeah, are we missing anything else here? Do we about get all of our stuff covered?
I just wanted to take a quick second. Like one of the games that I was streaming, I want to tell you guys about. Is a little game called Freshca. It's a digital card game, and the devs kind of it was a marketing guy that kind of reached out to us, right? And just asked us if we wanted to try it out. And I actually ended up streaming that during my live stream for 15 of those 25 hours. And if you are into digital card games, I just want to just say like I had a lot of fun playing that. It definitely takes some ideas from Hearthstone. But it doesn't play the same. It's more of a digital card game, board game / think of like Final Fantasy Tactics style. You're placing tiles down, putting your cards and minions on that, and then trying to control the board and gain mana, or fairy as they call it, and crush your opponent. And it's a free-to-play game. It's on Steam, so definitely I recommend it. Check it out. It has a lot of positive reviews on Steam, actually.
Cool.
And that's the main reason why I went to it. And I had a lot of fun. The best feature of it is the puzzle feature. It's solo mode where basically you have one turn to kill your opponent, and the board and your cards are set up, and you have to try to figure out lethal, basically, and then play it through. So
cool.
That's my favorite.
It looked like a lot of fun, man. That's pretty cool.
Looked confusing for my face shaman self, but if a face hunter can figure it out,
too soon.
The face hunter can figure it out. I'm sure I can figure it out as well. It did look really cool though, and I know JR, I know you well enough to where if you're not having fun playing something, you won't play it, let alone on stream. And right. I know I hopped in there probably 7 or 8 times over the past couple days and hung out for a half hour or so. And you were just playing away with that stupid smile on your face the whole time. Just,
it was fun.
Dropping cards. My favorite is when a game mechanic happens and you weren't quite ready for it, and your no joke literal reaction was,
oh God.
Every time. Oh God is the best. Yeah. Anyways, news.
It was fun. I just thought our listeners would like to check it out.
If you can't take the heat on the ladder right now, if you're like, man, I don't want to run 18 turn games, and I don't want to play aggro shaman or a pirate warrior, then hey, you've got another game to play in the meantime. So, all right, here we go. Let's talk about the news.
This week in Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft.
All right, so this week we do want to thank our friends of the show, Albert T, The Real Ben, and Coral. Thank you so much for your support of Well Met. We could not be doing it without you. So thank you. If you want to find out more about how you can support the show, help us bring on guests, help us make cooler sounding sounders, because it's getting a little bit old, don't you think? It's just been there for a long time. You can even hear how gritty that sounds compared to how we sound now, all nice and smooth. That's all been thanks to our Patreon or patrons over at patreon.com/wellmedpodcast. Hop on over and find it out more. All right, guys. Happy Feast of Wintervale. Happy Feast.
Can't believe it's back already. Unreal.
It's back. We've got our video is all souped up in all Wintervale themed. The Play Hearthstone YouTube channel posted a video that's just an hour of Murloc Christmas carols.
Oh God, it's so terrible.
And it's awful. It's awful. And it goes an hour, and after every song, a Murloc swishes by and adds something else to the scene, like decorating in front of the hearth. It's pretty cool. So we are all decked out in our Wintervale theme here for probably until Wintervale finishes. So happy Feast of Wintervale. What'd you get me?
Nothing.
A cool.
BM,
Great.
A BM of emote in Hearthstone.
A BM emote in Hearthstone. Okay,
I mean,
fair
that's
enough.
pretty much what we got, right?
Yep, I just greet. The only emote that I know how to do is greet. Greet, greet, greet. Always greet them. You win, greet them. You lose, greet them. That's how you win. All right, well let's get on to the big news.
Well, hold up.
Okay.
We gotta talk Wintervale for a second here, right?
Okay, you just were reading, man. I'm trying to read the room here.
I'm just trying to double check because I want to make sure I'm not misspeaking, but there's a bunch of Wintervale stuff in game last year, and we haven't seen an actual Wintervale promotion this year yet. So if you'll recall, last year, there was a classic card sale during the holiday season while Wintervale was available in-game. You could get 50 classic packs for the price of 40. Haven't seen that return. I'm also hoping that maybe this week, maybe the following week, I'm hoping actually this week, we'll see the Wintervale Tavern Brawl come back, which would mean that for anybody who wasn't playing Hearthstone last year or missed it, they would have a chance to get the Wintervale card back again, right? Because the Wintervale card back, the like wreath and candy cane looking one, was only available for participating in that Tavern Brawl that 1 week last year. So hopefully both of those things are coming back here in the next week or two.
Yeah, it's a good thought. I didn't think about that because I already got all those things.
Yeah, well, that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I know we're thinking like, Wintervale's back, whatever, move on, next. But there were a lot of cool things about it, like that first pass around, new card back, new game board, classic pack sale. Like, there's definitely some cool stuff going on. And the Wintervale Tavern Brawl was actually a lot of fun. Like, it was pretty snowball-y, but there was definitely. Thank you. I was waiting for that. But yeah, a lot of fun. I hope we see it again.
Yo, boy.
I hope that if they do something, it's not just old stuff that, players that played last year already have, that they have incentives for new items as well. Or
totally.
Something
like,
new as well.
I hope the card back comes back for people who missed it, because it to me feels a lot like the Fireside Gathering card back, right? It's one of the ones that just should be available for people if they play the game for any period of time to kind of grab over time. It would be awful if there was a new Wintervale Tavern Brawl card back every year and you had to get them all or whatever. But it would be nice for there to be some other rewards. It'd be cool if maybe we could unlock some packs or a free arena run if you already have it. Like, just something that would be neat, right? And I know they've done a pretty good job of making interesting stuff happen for people who have been with the game for quite a while. So I'm hopeful that just we see it reprised and we get something cool out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Fair enough. All right. Conversation closed on Wintervale. I'm closing the door on this one because we've got some fairly big news as far as Hearthstone leadership goes. Allfather Ben Brode has assumed the position of game director. So he is the head honcho. And for about the 5 people in chat who are about to go, wasn't he always game director? Kevin, what's going on there?
Right. So originally, if you go back to the beginning, Ben Brode has been one of the lead designers on Hearthstone since Team 5's inception, way back when. But the game director, from a technical perspective, was always Eric Dodds. So Eric Dodds was officially the guy in charge of the entirety of Team 5. He was the one who got to make the game design overall decisions. And there's not a ton of distinction there. We've seen this happen on a couple of other Blizzard teams recently where, for example, Alan DeBeery just took over from Dustin Browder as game director on Heroes of the Storm. And a very similar parallel there where Alan was basically doing all of the game design from a technical perspective, but now he's also looking after the rest of that team as well. Sort of a similar transition here for Ben Brode, where he goes from being in charge of a lot of the game design stuff to just being in charge of the whole of Team 5. And that's, I mean, it sounds kind of like, oh, well, if he was already in charge of how the game was balanced and designed, who cares? But it's a massive step up for someone in that kind of a role. And basically the ceiling as far as where you can go within Blizzard without moving into an executive role. So that's a big promotion for Ben Brode. And frankly, I think it's really an exciting time because Ben's a super awesome guy. And it's neat to go back and look at his career as somebody who started out, grinding in QA after he had been like a pizza delivery guy and stuff.
Yeah, he was a pizza delivery guy that used to go to Blizzard to deliver pizzas. And
today he's the game director for, I would argue, probably still the most profitable game that they produce, which is kind of hard to imagine. Like that's a pretty massive opportunity. So
it's a bold prediction, Cotton. That's a bold prediction. But you're probably right because this is Well Met. And on Well Met, Kevin is always probably right. That's just kind of how it works.
What's the correct phrasing of that, John? I'm not wrong.
Yeah, you're not wrong, Kev. You're definitely probably not wrong. JR, how do you feel? Oh, sorry,
Ben Brode.
Yeah, JR, how do you feel? How do you feel about us talking over each other right now?
I feel fine about it. You guys make it a little awkward, but I feel fine.
Awkward?
Yeah,
making it awkward. Who's making it awkward?
Okay, Kevin, you're now making it awkward. Anyway, how I feel about it is I'm excited because Ben Brode was actually one of the first people that I met when I first got to sit down and play Hearthstone. This was before the beta even hit. I was invited out to Blizzard headquarters and they with like 4 or 5 other people, and we got to play for a little bit before the game came out to the public. And one of the things is we got to sit down with Ben Brode, Eric Dodds, and Jason Chase to kind of talk about the game. And of all the 3 of them, I mean, Jason Chase is definitely the business guy of everything. And Eric Dodds was he was very excited about the game, but Ben Brode was very like he was really excited about the game and learning about like how we thought of it and ideas that we had and things like that. And so it's very contagious to have someone like that. So to have someone like that in charge, I think, is a very good direction to have. And I also feel like over time, like Hearthstone has kind of been changing as well. And this isn't something that just happened where Ben Brode took over like this last week. He's actually been game director for a little while now. We just learned about it recently. We don't actually know when it happened. It was, I think Brode said a few weeks ago, maybe, or it might have been even longer than that. And we also don't know when Eric Dodds actually left the team. But we do know the last few sets, we have seen some significant changes in how they're doing their design with the cards. And we might be seeing even more of that coming up now as well. Because I think we're going to see a definite change in how that leadership takes place with the direction of Hearthstone. And I think it's a very, very good direction.
And it's interesting, too, because we're having this conversation right on the tail of just recently learning that Dave Kosak had also joined Team 5, right? So there's a lot of kind of shifts going on, and with people who are very visible. Like if we run down the list of the people who work on Hearthstone, no one's going to get crazy excited about, some of the people that are behind the scenes that they don't see as much of. But these are 2 of the most prominent, visible people at Blizzard who have, a lot of credit to their name, have been there a long time, have worked on a lot of stuff. And both now standing at the helm of, like I said, kind of a massively successful game franchise by any standard, let alone Blizzard standards. I'm thinking this is a really exciting time to be following Hearthstone because you're not maybe going to see all of the outcomes of Ben Brode taking over, even if it did happen sometime back in the fall. you're not going to see a meaningful shift until into next year. But if you're still a big Hearthstone fan and you're, playing along in, next summer, next fall, as the regime change starts to sort of hit and you see the results of that, could be a very exciting time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just a very exciting time at Blizzard in general. Like you were talking about earlier, Heroes of the Storm switching over their game director. Dustin Browder's no longer on the team. World of Warcraft, Tom Chilton is no longer game director at World of Warcraft. And Ian Hazakostas is now game director. So we've got Tom Chilton, Dustin Browder, and Eric Dodds all still working at Blizzard, working on who knows what.
On question mark. Yeah.
Right. But we also learned, and I think this is the biggest news at BlizzCon that hardly anybody has been talking about, is Alan Adham, the one of the original founders at Blizzard, came back out of retirement. And one of the things that he is doing is, in a Polygon interview, he said that he's basically in charge of an incubator there, where they are coming up with new ideas for games and working on those. So I really think that these game directors that are leaving their teams are going off and thinking up of new ideas and new games that Blizzard's going to be creating. And I think that is really exciting. And I think in the next 2 years, we're going to see, what the outcome of that's going to be. And not only for the games we have, but
we gotta stop
for our future games. Yeah.
Gotta stop.
This is what happens when you get a couple of guys who head up a fan site for all things Blizzard and write for all things Blizzard full time, and you get them talking about speculation on the future of Blizzard. The biggest mistake we've ever made, like trying to run any hunter deck on the ladder. Just one of those things you try not to do while we move smoothly onto our next piece of news. We do have a Jade Lotus card back that's going to be the reward for hitting rank 20 in December. So fine card, cool. Just wanted to mention it. You can check it out on the Play Hearthstone website. We've got a link in the show notes. It'll be there. And then we also have our top finishes for the November season. First and foremost, congratulations to Ray C, friend of the show, 51st on NA, not too shabby. Amnesiac hitting number 2, Killing All Day, a name I have not seen yet, is a rank 1. And yeah, Firebat 6, you see Powder, Purple, Teebs. I wonder if that's the same Teebs. Anyways, sorry. I just saw Teebs there, and I have somebody on my friends list named Teebs who hits Legend, but like really late in the season. There's no way it's the same Teebs. Sorry. Anyways, what else do we have? Oh my God. Oh, this is the worst. What else do we have going on here? Any noticeable finishes for you guys?
I think the biggest thing about these ranks is aren't all of these now, aren't these going towards ACT points?
Yes. Yeah. November was the first season that counted for HCT. So everybody who hit Legend at all in November gets an HCT point, and then these top 200 finishers on this list are getting more points than that based on their ranking. And yeah, there's definitely names on that list that I recognize from HCT last year. Correa, Monsanto, Talion, lots of people that we have talked about, over the last year. Bunny Hopper is back on that list. You see Show, you see Nick Slay. I thought it was interesting that the version of Pirate Warrior that eventually emerged as the most popular version was largely credited to Sintalal, and he finished 16th. And basically got to rank 1 Legend on the back of being the first person to refine Pirate Warrior. So pretty big congrats to him. Although also, why did you do that to all of us? We hate you.
Fair. Fair. When it comes down to innovating decks, you never want to be that guy who innovated, I'm not going to say the C.
Everybody hates.
I don't want to say the C word because that's improper etiquette.
Don't go there. That is improper.
But it's that very frustrating deck that you see everywhere, and it's just a pain in the butt. Well, Sintalal, you will forever be known as that guy unless you come out with something new that isn't making people rage quit Hearthstone. Yeah. All right. So cool. Cool. Anything else? Anything else there? Feel good? Awesome.
I think we're talking meta.
All right, let's do it.
Beat 'em or join 'em.
Oh no.
All right. Well, it is a little bit early in the mean streets of Gadget Sand meta to really start laying down, as we used to with everything that's on the ladder. And here's the best decks, because it all is very much still fluctuating, but it has settled down enough to where we think that we can talk about it a little bit more and give you an idea of what's going on, what decks are performing well, what classes are performing well as we go forward. We are so new into the meta that Vicious Syndicate doesn't even have a new one out for Mean Streets of Gadget Sand yet. So we're relying off of their live Data Reaper report. And we're going to interpret it ourselves. Look at us doing work here on Well Met. And then Tempo Storm also has one as well that we wanted to talk about because it's interesting. It's an interesting read. Let's start with Tempo Storm. So Tempo Storm Meta Snapshot is up. I believe they said it is it's number 17 is what they're calling it. Tier 1 decks, they're saying, is Aggro Shaman, Reno Lock, and Pirate Warrior. So let's get address the elephant in the room for a second. Aggro Shaman has run rampant on the ladder last week. It has been really popular, and it's not a difficult deck to play. It curbs out really great. Some people are saying it's worse than mid-range Shaman in the Karazhan meta. JR, what are your thoughts here on Aggro Shaman this early in Mean Streets of Gadget Sand?
I mean, we knew going in that Shaman was still going to be really good. Like, until Standard rotates, like, Shaman has had all of the tools in the game for quite some time now. And there was nothing in the set that was going to stop any of that. And it's not going to be that way until a lot of those good cards that Shaman have rotate out in April. And once that happens, Shaman is still going to be, a number one top tier deck, whether you go with Aggro Shaman or mid-range Shaman. Now, I still think mid-range Shaman is still in a decent place, and we might end up seeing a rise of it again here pretty soon. But the thing about Aggro Shaman that it has is it puts on a lot of early pressure, and then it has a lot of like really good spells that you can use as either a finisher or to control the board, or kill off their creatures. Overload with Trogs, make them bigger. It's got the 4-mana 7/7. It just puts on a lot of pressure. And right now, the reason why it's popular is because we saw the rise of Pirate Warrior and how fast that deck was. Well, Aggro Shaman just straight up outbursts Pirate Warrior. So if you wanted to beat Pirate Warrior, you just played Aggro Shaman. And if Pirate Warrior is winning in a meta that is all about, people are experimenting with decks and more, control oriented, then if Pirate Warrior is winning, then Aggro Shaman is definitely going to win. So that's why you really see it right now in a really big space. Pirate Warrior is starting to decline some, and I think Aggro Shaman will as well eventually, and I think you'll start seeing mid-range Shaman rise up after that.
Okay. Any lingering thoughts on Aggro Shaman, Kevin?
Just a couple, yeah.
Okay, of course.
Well, no. So the thing that's interesting about this to me is people are saying that rotation is the solution here. Mid-range Shaman has a ton of cards that are rotating out. Like, mid-range Shaman is going to be massively punished by the standard rotation in the spring, give or take, depending on what gets added in the next adventure/expansion. This list, like the standard Aggro Shaman list, is losing almost nothing. right? A lot of these cards are very basic. You've got Lightning Bolt and Thalmos and Feral Spirit and Lava Burst, stuff that's not going anywhere. You got a lot of new cards, right? With the cards that came out in Mean Streets that do Jade Golem related things. Lots of which is additional burn, easy ways to develop bodies on the board. What they're losing is Tunnel Trog and Totem Golem. That is it out of the standard list.
Which are huge to lose.
They are big cards.
In fairness, like think back to when Aggro Shaman kind of first became a thing, right? And they had cards back then that were a big deal too, right? Whirling Zap-O-Matic used to be the scariest thing on earth. And there's so many things that can be added to this list to take over those spaces. Like, yes, you lose Tunnel Trog, so you play a different 1-drop. Yes, you lose Totem Golem, so you start putting in other aggro-oriented cards that are totally viable still. That could be a Flame Tongue Totem. It's not as good, I will absolutely grant you that, but there's definitely going to be Aggro Shaman for the foreseeable future. Like this list is, I think, going to be struggling once people start to figure out how like long-term control should look, and once people have better answers to the current meta than Reno Lock. But right now, Aggro Shaman feels really dominant because everyone's looking at this list and going, how on earth do you counter it? And there's a lot of things in there that are very powerful, right? Patches on turn 1 coming down, the strength of the weapons in Shaman, which are scary good. Spirit Claws is incredible. Jade Claws, while not as good, is still very powerful. And then just raw burst, right? I mean, very few classes can answer a Flame Wreathed Faceless. The classes that can are going to be just fine, right? This list hard loses to Dragon Priest. It hard loses to lots of things that have removal and sweepers, right? Or ways to reset the board state. But in the absence of like Anti-Healbot or cards like that, there's just always been these super oppressive aggro decks, and that's what we're stuck with for the foreseeable future.
Well, you're always going to have aggro decks. I mean,
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But the dominance of aggro has been really pronounced since GVG rotated.
Yeah. And I just want to say something here. I think, there's no doubt Totem Golem and Tunnel Trog are great tools in arguably the first 2 cards thrown into every Shaman deck that you make right now. It's going to be a loss to lose them. But I agree with Kevin in the sense that it doesn't mean that Aggro Shaman ceases to become a thing by any means.
It just won't be as good.
You won't see if people right now, people hypothesize that it's close to the win rate of mid-range Shaman at the end of Karazhan, which was a little over 55%, which is some of the highest numbers we've seen since pre-Unleash nerfs with the Unleash Buzzard stuff, shenanigans.
And bear in mind, right? Like compare this to, on exactly that note, compare this to the pre-Rockbiter nerf aggro Shaman, right? The one that ran Doomhammers and stuff. This list doesn't run Doomhammer, right? It forgoes it for spells. But the aggro Shaman that existed pre-Rockbiter nerf didn't run Trog. Trog was literally too slow for that list, and a liability against Warrior, which was one of the primary classes they struggled with. I absolutely think like you could totally just pull Trog and Totem Golem out, replace them with Argent Squire and Flametongue Totem, and go right back to where you are.
I know of 2 people who are in the top 10 legend now that ran double Rockbiter, double Doomhammer. So they were run huge. Wow. The only reason they stopped running it is because everyone started running Ooze, and it was just too risky to have such a heavy, basically a 7-mana card just get destroyed. You just don't come back from that. But Doomhammer is definitely still a very relevant card that I think you're seeing, and as people kind of change,
and you're still seeing it with Rockbiter, double Rockbiter,
right? And so I guess the big point I wanted to make with this is one of the biggest things that these 2 cards did early on is number 1, Tunnel Trog was an insta remove. If you had removal, you used it in almost every matchup. If you have a Frostbolt, you Frostbolt it. If you have whatever. You're getting rid of it as fast as you can. And then 4 health on turn 2 is huge. And I doubt we ever see that again in a way that doesn't have some sort of drawback like the really cool 4/5 Ancient Watchers, where they're 2 mana, 5 health, but you can't attack with them. That's kind of a big deal. But it will be a loss, and it will make the first couple turns of Aggro Shaman not as strong. But if you're not playing, I mean, you've got your patches combo right now. You're good for the next couple years to on that turn 1. So, relax a little bit. It'll still be there. But I think, too, we are starting to even now see the elongating of the curve of Aggro Shaman as more people are directly countering it. Like that, people started putting in ooze in almost every one. I've seen some priests run double ooze. Hotform was running one with double ooze. And, once you start seeing that, they're like, cool, all right, I Blackpaw and other cards that are extending its range a little bit and making its board more threatening with more minions to help that out. So, okay, Aggro Shaman, that's it. Let's talk about number 2, Reno Lock. Reno Lock in at number 2. Oh, wait, by the way, does everyone agree Aggro Shaman number 1 right now for just overall win rate power in Hearthstone currently in the meta?
My opinion is I think Reno Lock's number 1, Aggro Shaman's number 2, but I'm not basing that off numbers. I'm basing that off of games that I've played.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that it's the meta report stuff and volume of play still right now absolutely reflects ease of laddering and the fact that people haven't figured out more complex decks. So, I mean, today now, it is probably the strongest because it's very easy to pilot and it's very easy to win with. I don't think it's going to hold that spot very long.
Yeah. I think at Legend Rings, I think Reno Lock is stronger because you have more talented pilots. But I think if you're like, John, I want to climb the ladder up as quickly as possible, what should I be running? Aggro Shaman all the way. It's going to run great. If you're, halfway decent at Hearthstone, you'll be able to eke out a lot of wins, even ones you don't deserve, just because there's so much burst damage in that deck. But Reno Lock is basically the counter to Aggro Shaman in a lot of ways. It's not a direct counter because you have to have Reno, you need to have your Demon Wrath, or I've even seen some just cut Hellfire completely for, that I don't even know if they're running a different type of, Fellfire Potion, I think. And
getting Kazakis is huge as well.
Kazakis, right? And running that in for a 5 turns or a 5 mana spell that, gives you armor, AoEs at the same time. Like Kazakis is kind of a jerk if you're an Aggro Shaman. So it does really well. So if there continues to be so many Aggro Shaman that Reno Lock can really benefit from that matchup and does pretty well across the field, I believe, the rest of the way, outside of some like control matchups. Like, I definitely think it's right up there, and it's jockeying based on how many of what deck are on the ladder at any given time, in my opinion. I think that Reno Lock is still a strong 2, and I know Ray C tonight is streaming top 10, switching over to Reno Lock because he thinks it's better.
Yeah, and I like what someone said on Reddit the other day, is playing against Reno Lock is like playing a boss fight that has 3 different phases, because you get him down and then he heals all the way back up, and then you get him down again and then he pulls out Jiraxis and he goes back up to 15, and you've got to get him down again to beat him again. And it's just it's a really difficult if you're playing aggro. I mean, it's at some point you're just going to run out of damage that you're going to be able to do to kill him.
You're playing
any
against
other
the Reno's draws, not necessarily their
right.
not necessarily their skill as far as if you're going to take most matchups. Most matchups are, cool, I got him down to 12, and it's coming up to turn 6. Does he have Reno in hand? And he just hard mulligans Reno basically every time against a shaman. And, that's, I think, about, I'm not even going to pretend to know the percentage on what the percentage of him having Reno. Well, I guess it would be pretty straightforward. Like 3.
If you
6,
hard
7, 8,
mulligan
9,
for a
10,
card,
11,
I think it's about a 45%
13.
chance.
Yeah, I think 12 to 13
that was
out of 30. Yeah.
Isn't that the math that they used for that Fiery War Axe thing on Vicious Syndicate once? Like if you hard mulliganed for it, what were your odds? And with a card that you could get 2 of, it was back up to almost 50%. So with Reno being a one-off, it's probably closer to like 30, 35, but it's pretty high.
Well, then you
can
also
really go
have
looking for it.
You also have the hero power as well, which can help you draw, even though it's really tough to tap and draw against aggro shaman.
Yeah.
But I mean, let's be also very honest with ourselves too. This is an archetype that doesn't exist in 6 months. Like it feels really good right now because there's a lot of variety, there's a lot of versatility. But A, no more Reno, and B, all of the Highlander style decks are going to suffer a lot when they lose Blackrock Mountain, Grand Tournament, and League of Explorers. Like there's a lot of stuff going away. There's no Bran, there's no Reno, there's no Thorison. Like a lot of the stuff that makes these decks work is just gone.
Yeah, I think it can still work because Kazakis is still a really good card. But I don't think it's going to be as good without Reno.
It definitely depends on the expansion or adventure that we see released alongside of the rotation out. If they invest heavily again into those, I personally think they're going to continue to always call it Reno, even when Reno phases out. Reno will just be the name for one card decks. And I know a lot of people are on Team Highlander. I'm on Team Reno when it comes to one card decks. And I think it really is going to depend on how much they invest into keeping that archetype a thing. And that will determine how viable. But if you just take out those cards tomorrow and you don't bring in anything else, it's in a rough spot for sure.
The other big thing that Reno has that it sort of reminds me of a Druid and the Druid combo. Like if you are down to, even 20 health,
well, that's what the
late
combo
game
is,
with Reno, you're gonna just flat out lose because they can just Leroy power overwhelming faceless 20 damage to the face.
Right. Now that requires
that's a pretty big deal. That requires Emperor.
An Emperor tick on at least one of those cards. So but that's not typically difficult to happen when you're playing.
That's not
Reno.
difficult to do in that deck.
Yeah, and even then, if it's not, I mean, if you're just Leroy faceless, that's still 12 damage, and especially with these different other Reno decks. Number one, like that's great in the Reno mirror because you're right in that awkward spot of, do I Reno back up to 30 when I'm at 16, 17, 18? Or do I, continue to sit here and hope that my opponent does not have a combo? So it's great for that. It's great for bursting down Druid, who right now is only running 1, maybe 2 taunts, depending on if they're running Jade or not, which they probably are. So, yeah. It's an interesting thing, but Reno is doing really well right now for Warlock, and it is definitely one of the best counter picks. If you're like, I'm so freaking sick of all this aggro, what do I pick? That's a deck, but it's not a super easy one to pilot. There's a lot of decision making involved and knowing.
Yeah, if you watch me on the stream. Sorry.
For me, I noticed that I had so many tools at my disposal that I was way too willing to dispose of my tools. I was just like, it's just a it's just a Shadow Flame. Nah, it's just Hellfire. Whatever. We got other answers. And eventually you're like, ooh, I could have been more efficient here. And that's, I think, one of those things where you have to know your matchups really well and know what your opponent has in order to be super effective in Reno, or just be a Hearthstone god. One of those two. Yeah. What anything else about Reno?
I'm just excited for Reno to go away. I mean, not because it's not a great archetype or fun to play, but because it opens them up to print healing cards again. I think they've stayed away from a lot of cards that generate healing because Reno exists, right? We had to wait for Zombie Chow to go away to get Mistress of Mixtures, and I think we have to wait for Reno to go away before we ever see another heal bot or equivalent. Like, you're not getting neutral healing really until Reno goes away. And the closest thing that's come out in any meaningful sense is what? Like, Cult Apothecary? Who cares? Like, it's not if you have to Cult Apothecary, you're already losing. So I think it'll be really exciting to see what kind of cards can be printed in the absence of Reno.
Yep. Yeah, there are some really cool. I won't even get into it. We should do a Reno style card competition sometimes, where if you only have one copy in your deck, blank.
What's the effect? Yeah.
And do a design sometime. Maybe we'll do that sometime in January after the holidays cool down, because that would be fun. All right, let's talk about number 3, because I think this is where we're gonna get some dissension in here. Number 3 is Pirate Warrior. I saw some people in chat who have said that they definitely agree with this number 3. JR, I'm going to throw it to you first. How do you feel about Pirate Warrior at number 3?
I mean, I feel like right now, and I don't know about right now, but as of a few days ago, I would have put it there. But it's definitely dwindling. And it might have already dwindled down now, as people are now figuring out how to beat Pirate Warrior, or they're just straight up playing Aggro Shaman, because Aggro Shaman's better. Pirate Warrior is very good at what it does. It is a good deck if you're going to ladder up to rank 5, and then get those bonus stars going and things like that. It could win you games very, very quickly, but people are starting to play more and more against aggro because of the prominence of Pirate Warrior and Aggro Shaman. And it's easier to beat Pirate Warrior than it is Aggro Shaman. And so I think it's trending down. Right now, I'd say probably number 3 in that area is fine. But it's definitely, I don't think you're going to see it there for much longer.
What's really interesting to me is, despite Tempo Storm putting it at number 3, the only matchups at 50% or above is Token Druid, which you're not seeing a whole lot, at 65%. Jade Druid at 60%, which is definitely true. Definitely really tough to win as Jade Druid against that. A Miracle Rogue, which makes a lot of sense. And then, well, obviously Pirate Warrior as a 50-50, so that doesn't even count. So really there's only 3 archetypes. One of them is not super popular on the ladder right now, at least when you look at the meta snapshots, and especially as something that you would run to tech against. Kevin and I, we had a little talk about our number 3, and Miracle Rogue is there, where, it does not win against Pirate Warrior very often there. So, Kev, what do you think about Pirate Warrior as a number 3 slot?
See, and again, I think this comes down to ease of piloting. Like, I'm looking back and forth between Tempo Storm and now over to the Vicious Syndicate data, where Pirate Warrior has positive win rates against everything other than Aggro Shaman, Reno Priest or Mage, and Dragon Warrior, right? It's very positive against a lot of decks, blows out basically at an almost 60% win ratio, all Warlock, all Hunter, all Mage, other than Reno, and beats Shaman other than aggro thoroughly. Like, it's very interesting when you look at the data, and that's of course because it's different across the spectrum of skill, right? So in terms of a deck to climb with, Pirate Warrior still looks very, very, very good And there is a reason that it is the most represented single archetype. It's cheap and it's fast games, and it like the most represented deck when you get up to about the rank, like I would say like 9 through 7 range. Basically, as people are doing the climb, trying to get up to 5 and then switch to something with a more positive win rate, it's all Pirate Warrior. Like there's just a huge block of Pirate Warrior. And then above that, in the list of people trying to get from 5 to Legend, is the huge block of Aggro Shaman that's crushing all the people who are playing Pirate Warrior. So I think it's a very popular deck. I think it's very powerful. I think the fact that it beats Miracle Rogue so thoroughly is the only reason it's in that spot, because Miracle Rogue to me is actually the like substantially better and more consistent deck against the field as a whole. But Pirate Rogue way easier to pilot and way faster games, which is what appeals to a lot of people when they're climbing, right? So I think this deck is actually not long for the world. I think it will be dropped out of tier 1 very fast.
Yep. It definitely, I think it caught everyone by surprise, and everyone panicked when we first had the expansion hit. And even I wrote a couple articles. I find that I think better when I write things down and think about them that way. Wrote a couple things on my website just about Pirate Warrior, why it's good, what beats it. And, in the end, it was just something that it felt so strong right away, but it was also when everyone was experimenting with these, control decks that were just not very efficient, not figured out. The best thing you can do when an expansion hits is run a super efficient deck, because everyone else is just playing around and having fun, trying out the new cards. And so my personal pick for number 3, I think Miracle Rogue is a great pick. I really like the new Aviana Kuhn Druid. We've been seeing it brought in tournaments. I know of one person in top 10 who's been running that deck. It's got decent win rates overall. And obviously, if you get that combo off, it's just deadly. So that's my pick for number 3, at least. So, yeah.
There's probably a strong argument to be made for Dragon Priest as well, because Dragon Priest right now is super good. I know we all talked about how many tools Priest was getting in this expansion, but Dragon Priest is basically an unwinnable matchup for everything other than Reno Lock and Miracle Rogue right now. Like, it's just incredible how good that class is.
That Dragonfire Potion, right? Is that what it's called? That's such a good card, because honestly, when you look at Dragon Priest, so many of your minions are actually dragons, which is what it should be. That's why you call it Dragon Priest. But the surprising thing is that it's so good against the rest of the field, except for those other classes who run quite a bit of dragons of their own. I think Reno runs five or 6 dragons in that deck as a whole, maybe 4, but I'll have to recount. I'm not doing it now. Not 1. So it definitely is interesting. I think Dragon Warrior too is starting to bump up in popularity as well. I've been seeing that a little bit, and I think that has some pretty good matchups as well. So I think that there's always that. I think the worst ones for Dragon Warrior are Reno Lock and Miracle Rogue, which for right now is not great. But if things start to change as they are, those 2 decks may change a bit, and this guy might jump up. And I think Vicious Syndicate, they have him at number 6, right behind Dragon Priest. So I don't know, pretty interesting. What else here on the meta report are you guys digging, not digging, surprised with? Let's go down to tier 3. No. Tier 4. There it is. Mid-range Hunter. Our good friend Mid-range Hunter at the very, very bottom of tier 4, which is 25th. Mid-range Hunter goes from, and if you watch in week 5 of the snapshot, it was at number 7 and has kind of stayed around 7, 8, dropped. And then week 14, aka Mean Streets, went straight down to 18 and then just has plummeted down to 25. What's going on with Hunter?
Nothing. That's the problem. Actually, nothing.
Exactly.
Like, I feel bad saying that, but the reality is, like, there are old decks that are being held in check by certain things, like Miracle Rogue, right, is held down by Pirate Warrior. If Pirate Warrior wasn't a thing, Miracle Rogue right now would be totally indestructible because so many people could just pilot it straight through all of these decks that are reliant on their late game combos, your Reno decks and your Dragon decks and your Jade Druid decks. Like, there's a lot of stuff that people are trying to make work in the late game, and Miracle just destroys them all, but it can't handle aggro of any kind, right? Hunter is in this awkward place where it got nothing, right? Like, Face Hunter gained nothing in this expansion. Mid-range Hunter gained nothing in this expansion, at least not in any meaningful sense. The Grimy Goons mechanic as a whole is not seeing a lot of play. No one's running the Goons buff your hand stuff from any of the classes that are eligible to use it. You're not seeing Don Honcho being, frantically played out in Hunter, Paladin, or Warrior. I think Hunter's just in a really awkward spot where you can't do very much. Like, the class just feels really awkward. If you go and you try to find like what feels like a good synergistic list, you end up back at One Night in Karazhan Secret Hunter, or you end up back at pre-Karazhan mid-range Hunter, which is crazy to think that, like, yes, you can absolutely win games with it, but you're winning games based on your opponent's mistakes or bad mulligans, and that's awful. It's an awful feeling. I don't know what Hunter needs right now to be competitive, but it got none of those things.
As many times as I have been beaten and frustrated by Face Hunter, I am okay with this.
And played, right? And played Face Hunter.
No.
Oh, come on. Oh, come on. That's boy.
If you look at my deck list, they're all named Smork, so you can see where I stand on that.
It just feels bad, right? Like, there are classes where they don't have a lot going on, but you could probably make them work. Like, if somebody wants to make Reno Mage or Tempo Mage work, they can do it. If you really want to play Aggro Paladin or Anyfin Paladin, the toolkit exists, right? Like, there's ways to make that happen. In Hunter, I just don't feel like you have any options. I look at what you're supposed to try to put together for a Hunter list and think there's no natural conclusion. Despite the fact that Hunter got so many good cards over the course of time, right now, I mean, what's your win condition in Hunter? Call of the Wild? Well, good luck getting to turn 9 against Pirate Warrior or Aggro Shaman or right? Like, there's just no way to survive long enough. Hunter as a class lacks the toolkit to stabilize, so they have to wait until all of these aggro decks get pushed out by Control, and then you might see Hunter make a bit of a comeback because they've got some very powerful tools. Like, you could do a lot of work, I think, against like a Jade Druid or some of the like late game oppressive decks where Hunter just wins by virtue of hero powering and kill commanding over time. I think Hunter can actually technically do more damage by mana cost than an aggro shaman can. Like, they just don't have the same. There's a lot of beast activations and, like, you empty your hand and you don't draw in Hunter as much, but like, I think it's very doable. I think there's ways to make it happen, but this meta is so unfriendly to Hunter. And so of the classes, like, it looks pretty good for everything other than Hunter, Paladin, and Mage.
Yep.
I think once the meta slows down, Hunter's going to be in a decent place, but right now it's just in a really, really rough place.
And we are like, we should probably lead with this whenever we talk about meta. We're talking broad strokes stuff here. Like, there are definitely, like, Freshca, Hearthstone God in the chat talking about Hunter is like, well, there's some really good Hunter cards, and you're like, I just hit up rank 5 with Hunter, and I'm just like, all right, well, fair. That's good. Take everything we say with a grain of authoritative salt, because but because some of it is up to that. But at the same time, when you look at the broad strokes of the meta and what wins and what doesn't, this is data. I mean, we're taking spreadsheets of thousands, 10,000s of games and going, here's who's winning and here's who's losing. There are obviously some people, like, there will be people to say, to get up to rank 5 for your first time, play your most comfortable class no matter what it is. If like that's your only goal, you don't want to get better, you just want to hit rank 5, play your most comfortable class, play the best deck that your class has. You can get to rank 5 with that. But if you're like, what should I be playing right now? What technically beats what? And what can I be, when I'm seeing a matchup come up on my screen, what should I be thinking and how do I know when to make changes? This is where we hope the conversation becomes helpful and becomes fruitful for everybody involved. I know I learn a lot from these conversations, and it's something that if you want to get better at Hearthstone, understanding matchups and understanding what is doing well right now is a really important thing to do. So, it's just a side note.
I will say, I think that there's probably a hunter list that hasn't been experimented with yet to its full effect. Just because obviously there's a lot of good older hunter cards that people aren't maybe circling back to. Everyone's in a hurry to prove that, Rat Pack will work or that they can get a huge dispatch Kodo. And it feels really good, but it's heavily reliant on a series of mechanics that you have to get on the right minions in the right order. You have to go basically all in on the hand buffing mechanic to make those things work. If you're going to run dispatch Kodo, you have to run the hand buffing Grimy Goons cards, and you have to run Beast Ragers and Shaky Zip Gunners, and that sucks. They're not good cards. Like mathematically, they're just not good. So you're definitely put in a very awkward position. But I would love if people listening to the show are willing to take the time, put together your best hunter list, take it for a run, play 10 games, and let us know, what rank you were at and how it did, what matchups felt good. Like, it would be super cool for us to, as a community, come together and say, okay, how do we do hunter here? Because that's something that I think would be really a fun experiment, is taking the least played class and showing what it's capable of.
Right. I agree. Anything else we want to hit on the meta here, or can we take this email?
Let's do it.
Let's take an email.
We've got mail.
We do. We have an email this week. We've actually had this one for a few weeks, but it's a question that can be answered anytime. It's not super relevant to what is currently going on in Hearthstone, because it's always going to be going on in Hearthstone. And so with full weeks, we didn't get to it, but we're getting to it this week. So, Kev, you feel cool running this email by us?
Yeah, let's do it. So we have a wonderful email from Stephen E. And he writes, I'm wondering if you guys could have a discussion about ladder anxiety. I suffer from it greatly in other games too, and it often leads to me sitting there wanting to play but not pressing play and eventually closing the game. I think my longest Hearthstone session ever is 5 games, and I really want to get past this and just enjoy myself. Would love to hear all of your opinions and thoughts. Love the show, guys. Keep it up, Steven. So Steven, I would start by saying, this is something that you eventually just don't worry about, right? I know it seems really hard to think about it that way, but your rank in Hearthstone is really not reflective of much of anything, right? You play the game, you enjoy it. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. As you play more games, you'll get better and you'll do better. You just have to learn not to take it really personally. The most important thing to keep in mind, I think, when you're addressing ladder anxiety in Hearthstone specifically, is outcomes aren't exactly predetermined or anything, but sometimes you are going to lose due to variables that are outside your control, right? The reason that people care about meta reports and that we talk about classes that are strong or not strong at any given time is a big part of how well you do when you play the game is what you run into. If I queue with my favorite deck, which happens to be, I don't know, like Aggro Paladin, and all I run into the entirety of the night... Thanks, buddy. All I run into all night is the hard counters to that deck, then I look like I'm doing very poorly and I go on a losing streak. You have no control over what you get matched up against, and sometimes those numbers are just not going to work out in your favor. Similarly, sometimes you're going to play a deck that is actually able to win very consistently, like Tempo Mage. And playing Tempo Mage for a night will teach you a ton, because sometimes you'll get a draw where you win the game on turn 4. and you have no idea how or why that happened, but you just happened to snowball like crazy and your opponent had no answers in hand. The next game you go to play Tempo Mage, you never see card draw, you never see Flame Waker, you didn't get a Mana Worm, you didn't have coin to start out with, and you just lose because you didn't have the toolkit. That's a reality of playing any kind of game where there's variance. So I would say just look at it as games are a learning opportunity. If you don't enjoy it or you lose a couple games in a row and you start to feel yourself getting frustrated, take a break, do something else, but come back and play again later. Sit down and play 2 or 3 games. Do it in bursts that you could feel like you can do comfortably. Because obviously, if you sit and play Hearthstone for an hour and you lose every game, that's massively frustrating. So break that time up, do other things, commit to a deck, learn it really well. That's advice we've been given on this show for years is pick a deck and just stick with it for a few weeks or a month so that you understand it better and you know when to use certain cards, certain removal, certain burn. That's a lesson you don't learn by playing 2 or 3 games at a time and then switching decks. John, JR, what did I miss?
Go, JR, you go ahead first.
I think everybody has this problem. I think the biggest thing is don't force yourself to play something you're not going to enjoy. If you really enjoy playing the game and you just have that mindset of I'm going to play some Hearthstone and I don't care what the results are, you're going to end up doing fine. If you're going with the mindset of I'm going to get better and things like that, you're going to do fine. But if you find yourself just playing and getting frustrated and not having a good time, then just stop playing, and that's okay, because you shouldn't force yourself to play a game. And I go through that. If you guys watch my live stream this weekend, I tried playing Reno Lock, and I was getting frustrated because I was trying to stream and kind of learn Reno Lock a bit while I was streaming. And I was getting frustrated because I was second guessing what I wanted to play. And people in chat were also second guessing.
I was doing an amazing job backseat Hearthstoning during that time.
And it just got to the point where I'm like, this isn't fun. I need to take a step back and play something else. And then that's okay. And then later I'm going to jump back on and try to play Reno Lock again and try to get better at it. And maybe when I play again, I'm going to be in a better mindset for it. And, and I think that's the biggest thing is when I queue up, I will always queue up in ranked. And at the end of the day, you are not, I think the most important thing to say here is you are not your rank. Like, you are not defined by the rank you are in Hearthstone. Like, if someone's like, oh, you're a rank 15, you must be bad. No, you're not. You're actually pretty good at Hearthstone. If you're rank 24, you're still better than that rank 25. Even if you're rank 25, you're still having fun at the game. You're not defined by your rank. And if you think of it that way, and you're just like, I'm just going to play and do the best that I can, you'll be fine.
Cool. I'll chime in with a couple pieces of my advice. As somebody I am like a perfectionist in so many different things. I don't like to play Hearthstone if my room is dirty. I don't like to do homework if my room is dirty, or if I have other chores I need to do. Like I struggle being productive and justifying being productive if something else is out of place and weird. And so ladder anxiety has a very special place in my life. I think the first thing is kind of determining why you're playing. Why are you playing Hearthstone? If it's just to have fun, put a piece of tape over your rank. Just do it. Put a little box or something, whatever. Doesn't matter. If you're just playing to have fun, rank doesn't matter, all that stuff, cool. Like that's honestly usually the easiest way people get over ladder anxiety is they stress out about their rank and then realize that they don't really care about their rank. They care more about playing decks that they're having fun with. If you're wanting to climb the ladder and be the best Hearthstone player you can be, it's frustrating. It's just naturally going to be frustrating because you're going to lose. And as a player who is probably, I'm going to assume, Steven, you're not a legend player or a multi-legend player. If you are, then suck it up. But if not, I'm just kidding. But if you aren't, which I'm assuming you aren't, then the hardest part with ladder anxiety is, did I play my best that game, or what could I have controlled? What couldn't I have controlled? And developing the skill to know what is what, and something that I've been taught by quite a few coaches in the past, and I'm actually going to be hanging out with Freshca soon, and we're going to just go over some tapes of my games. I'm playing a new deck, and I want somebody's input on it. I was watching Hot Forum today, and he saw a play. He goes, I haven't seen this setup before, and it was really weird. He had like 2 5/5s, 9 cards in hand, and his opponent was playing like a Reno mage or something, and he's like, I'm going to screenshot this, and I'm going to actually just email it to Life Coach so that he can tell me what he would do, because I need a second set of eyes on this. And he played through the best he could and then went back and learned. And there are a lot of ways to get better at Hearthstone, and it doesn't involve just playing the game. Although I think that if you're intentional, it is often the most fruitful, because you're the one playing, you're the one thinking in the moment, you're the one making the decisions. But just, taking the time to, I think, get that mindset of like, I cannot get better if I don't play. In most cases, I cannot play more and understand this game more if I'm not playing or watching more streams. And then part of it is just that control piece and pushing yourself over the edge to just hit that button. I struggle with that a lot.
I would totally add to it, because John raised a really great point there. Play with a friend. And have somebody else sit and spectate with you, chat about it, get on Skype or Mumble or Discord, and have somebody sit with you, and you can bounce ideas off of them, and you can work with somebody, even if it's not someone who's actually better at the game than you. Like, you don't have to get coaching, but have somebody else just play along with you, because it takes a lot of the pressure off to know that you both agreed on the decision. So now you aren't solely hung with the win or the loss. And I know for a lot of people, for a lot of my friends, I have friends who only play the game when I can play with them, and I don't make the decisions for them. I don't pilot their decks for them. They just like having someone to play with, and that makes a huge difference to the experience. Having a second set of eyes, a second idea, you're going to be able to just ease off of this is a reflection of me, my skill level, my knowledge, and just sit back and go, no, okay, now we're just talking about it, and we're doing the best we can as a team. And that can feel a lot better. So if that helps you play a few more games and go a little further, by all means, play with a friend.
And we've talked about this before, and I think we linked to this article. But if we haven't, Freshca, you're might as well just come on the show at this point. Wrote an article on Tempo Storm as well a while back about ways to improve as a player, getting over the plateau, getting over that ladder anxiety. And I'm going to make sure I put it in the show notes for you to check out as well. I might be able to just respond to you via email, but I might forget. So I'm going to just do that for everybody. There's lots of ways to improve. And like to Kevin's point, there are games I hate playing by myself. Hearthstone is not one of them. I'm definitely have to be in a mood to play with somebody or to play by myself, but there's lots. You're not alone. Find a friend. We're in Discord. I know BlizzPro has a Discord. I have my own personal Discord. There's Hearthstone has its own Discord. There's tons of Hearthstone communities. You won't struggle to find someone to play with you if you think that would help. So there's that as well.
So what we learned is Hearthstone, it's dangerous to go alone. Take a friend.
Nice.
All right, let's get out of here. That's a really good way to end it. Wow. Well, we done? Is that it?
That was it. That's all.
I did want to say one more thing. There was an interesting YouTube video that got put up by a good friend of the show, BaconInfinity. He made a video about reading how to know. I want to get the title exactly right. How to get info on your opponent's hand. And it kind of goes through and talks about what to be looking for when you're playing a game and how to make reads on your opponent. So if you're wanting to elevate a little bit, want something to watch, I will have the link in the show notes as well. We've got lots of resources for you this week, so study up, come on back. 3 pages on my desk by next Monday, or you get an F. Yes, you get an F. All right, well, let's go ahead and get out of here. We do want to thank our friends of the show, Albert T, The Real Ben, and Coral. Thank you so much for your support. If you like Well Met, if you think the stuff that we're talking about is valuable and want to support so we can bring on better resources than ourselves and, speak authoritatively to this stuff, head on over to patreon.com/wellmetpodcast to find out how you can get involved. No new patrons this week, so sad panda, sad Kevin is sad. Well, what do we have going on in iTunes world, JR?
Yeah, this week in iTunes we have 1 5-star review in the US from WBO Kunik. I have no idea how to pronounce that one. That's a new one.
Wabakinik.
Wabakinik. There you go. Wabakinik. We'll go with that.
Wabakinik. Yep.
Wabakinik. Okay.
Good Lord.
Now that song's going to be in my head.
You're welcome.
Thanks, John. If you'd like to leave a 5-star review, just head over to iTunes. You can type in Hearthstone. You'll find Well Met very easily in the podcast section there. Click on that, leave a 5-star review. It helps us out immensely, gets our names out there, things like that. It's awesome.
Cool.
Thank you. I'll also mispronounce your name, or John will...
I'll help him when he can't think of ways to mispronounce your name.
Yeah.
That's what it is. All right, well, let's do some shout-outs for the week. Kev, you're up first. What are we shouting out this week?
Nothing. I got nothing. It's been a crazy week. Work's been super hectic. I know we're going to have some very exciting news coming up very soon. And if you've been following any of the other shows, if you were in with us on the payload this week, we're getting ready to do something pretty big coming up here. So keep an eye on your feeds. Check out the show next week. There's going to be some major news coming out. In the meantime, I guess I just want to say thank you to all of our patrons, everybody who's stuck it out with us. I know I haven't done it in a while, but every so often I go through the Patreon lists and I just check to see who's been around for a long time. And we've got patrons now who've been with us for a year and a half. People have been supporting this show for a year and a half straight. And I know that maybe it's not a lot of money to you guys. It's $1 or $2 here or there, but that's incredible that you guys have been with us all this time and still find value in what we're doing, want to come back every week. That's amazing. So you guys make us come back and do this every week. We put aside our Sunday nights for you guys. Thanks for being there for us. And I hope that we're doing this for hundreds of shows yet to come for you guys.
Yes. Yep. That was beautiful. Wish we could end on that, but Jared, what do you have going on?
Yeah, but we
week?
gotta go with.
We gotta
JR
talk to
here,
JR.
Man,
jeez.
No, I just wanna thank everybody that came out for the Extra Life charity live stream I did this week. Either if you came out to just hang out, if you retweeted the stuff to get other people in, or if you donated, it was awesome. I had a lot of fun, and I definitely want to do it again soon.
Yeah. It was really cool. And again, it's not too late. Let's get JR to 1,000 before the end of the year. extralife.blizzpro.com. We can do it. I believe it. We can do it. If you can dream it, you can do it. All right. That's enough.
Like memes be dreams.
Yep. Okay. Oh, man. This has just been such a cringy show. Let's, as for me, finals week this week, my last finals tomorrow, then I'm going to be back to streaming full time. I also have, my little office outside of this hot burning studio set up now. So I'm able to be on a computer a lot more, which is kind of neat. And so look for me there, twitch.tv/kicktripod. And yeah, I think that is it. I'm worried I didn't hit something somewhere, but I think I got it. Let's get out of here then. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Well Met. Join us live every Sunday at 7 p.m. Pacific at twitch.tv/BlizzPro to get in on the conversation, and follow us on Twitter at Well Met Podcast for additional news and updates. Well Met is supported by our fans. If you love the show, you can find out how to become a part of the family at patreon.com/wellmetpodcast. You can also find Well Met apparel at store.blizzpro.com. A special thanks to Jake Buttonow for our music and Scythe Designs for our graphics. This has been episode 89 of Well Met. We'll see you next week, guys. Bye-bye. Bye.
Well Met is a production of BlizzPro.com. The show records live at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time at twitch.tv/BlizzPro. To get the latest news and information about the show, follow us on Twitter at Well Met Podcast or join us on our subreddit at reddit.com/r/WellMetPodcast. If you would like to support the show, you can find out how at patreon.com/WellMetPodcast.
Oh God.